Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in for another episode of Beer and Real Estate, the show where two guys talk about two things that they love the most, beer and real estate. This week we got an exciting guest for you. Tell them about him.
All right, so today's episode, man, we got a very special guest, as Ryan just mentioned. He's the author of the Conversion Code, co-founder of Curaytor Systems, which we're going to talk about today. Chris, buddy, man, if you would introduce yourself to the audience and let's kind of get started on some of the questions that we have for you today.
Cheers. Well, I'm drinking a High Life, an Indian Pale Ale.
Nice, awesome.
Cigar City Brewery in Tampa. It's a great brewery.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they make great beer. And we do a podcast called Water Cooler where we drink and every now and then say an adult-rated word. So I love what you guys are doing. But, you know, just a quick background on myself. I run Curaytor. We're a very fast-growing marketing company. We specialize in working with real estate agents like you guys. I've written a couple best-selling books. I've got an 80-person team. And we are quite literally creating content, running ads, sending emails, and helping agents follow up every day, all day. So we have a lot of data, obviously, that provides us. We have a lot of expertise through trial and error over the years. And we also have some great software. We have a tool called Curaytor Brain that looks at all the ads and emails, and it puts the best ones at the top. We built a tool called Grade My Ads, which over 5,000 businesses have used to see if their ads are effective or not. So we love what we do. Basically a marketing company that works with agents and shares everything we learn as a way to give back.
As we mentioned, we're also Curaytor clients. So we're big advocates, definitely love everything that you guys do at Curaytor. And it's definitely how much you guys help our business as well. So that's awesome.
Thank you.
But I'd like to kind of kick it off, and you kind of already kind of gone into it with the Conversion Code.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of talked about that, you know, being a bestseller author and everything of a couple books, but the Conversion Code has been out for a couple of years now. Can you kind of touch on that? Kind of tell the audience as far as, you know, those that have not seen it, what it's about, and maybe kind of has anything really changed since that came out? Because I know you've kind of we had thoughts of another book coming out, number 2.
Yeah, I'm working on my second book, or really I should say Conversion Code 2, behind the scenes. And definitely things have changed. I mean, look at your caller ID. When somebody calls, it says spam now. Didn't used to do that. You know, it says telemarketer. It didn't used to do that. Think about those pop-up messages on your website that says, hey, this website uses cookies. Didn't used to have those, you know, so consumers are going to win. You know, people are going to win. And if people don't like cheating tactics or sleazy tactics, like, let's be honest, has anybody ever liked getting hounded by a telemarketer? No. And so technology and founders and startups are going to build stuff that keeps that from happening. You know, anytime there's a problem, there's some geek in Silicon Valley that's going to try to solve it. So I would say a lot's changed, and that's a lot of what we're thinking about for the next book. I think the Conversion Code, when it was written, was sort of the pinnacle of how to do sales and marketing in a modern era. But what we realized when we looked at a lot of the tactics, we don't even use them. Like when we get a lead at Curaytor, the best practice is you have to call within 5 minutes of getting the lead. But if you actually do thought leader marketing and you actually have a brand and you actually bring people into your funnel that way, they'll wait for your call. See what I'm saying? Like one of the other tactics is you have to call people 6 times. We don't have to call people 6 times. We can't even call people twice before they pick up. So when your marketing is amazing, selling gets so much easier. But yeah, if you're kind of just doing spray and pray and you're going with like high volumes of leads, you kind of need the boiler room tactics. So I would say that what's changed since the book's come out is that the ability to convert a lead without talking to them has gotten easier, but it's a good thing it has, because people don't want to give up their phone number. Like we get asked all the time, how do I get more leads with phone numbers? Well, the simple answer is you don't. Because unless you're going to make everybody out there want to give up their phone number, you're going to have to figure out how to be better with email-only leads. You know, there's ways to build your funnel now, and this wasn't available when I wrote the book, but you could move people down through your funnel without even capturing their info. You could get them to like a post. You could get them to read an article that they don't have to register for, and that can pixel track them. That can put them in an audience to show them another ad. So I would say the other thing that changed, as you guys know, is Instagram. You know, when I wrote this book, there was not a complete chapter even dedicated to Instagram. And over the last 4 years, it has blown up. Stories, like there would be a whole section in my book about stories. There would be a whole section in the book about Insta. But the funny thing is, in the book, I say Facebook is the internet. And it's true. Why do you think everyone's mad at Facebook? Because everyone uses Facebook.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. You know why everyone's not mad at Twitter? Because not everybody tweets. You know why everyone's not mad at Snapchat? Because no one's using it. That's 30 or up or whatever. So, Facebook has this big burden to bear, which is that they are the #1 site by a mile. So they're going to get the most criticism. When I wrote this book, Mark Zuckerberg didn't have to go in front of the Senate. Facebook wasn't getting accused of helping rig the election. So a lot has changed, but what hasn't changed is that execution is worshiped. You have got to at least be executing while you navigate the new changes. And what a lot of people do is they just want to keep learning and talking about the future so that they don't have to do shit right now.
Yeah. And we actually, we did an episode of the week and we talked about that as far as, speaking of real estate agents, it's kind of evolved with the changes in Facebook and internet and everything else, because now we're not just real estate agents, we're becoming marketers and learning those different changes within Facebook and everything else that we have to keep up with. So you're exactly right. There's a lot that we got to do to kind of keep up with the change of time.
Well, and the other thing I would say, guys, is you're not just up against other agents. If you were only up against other agents, you would dominate, because other agents, a lot of them are terrible. A lot of them are part-time. A lot of them suck. A lot of their marketing's garbage, but you're not just up against them. You're up against Curaytor. You're up against every company that does marketing. Like if I can sign a mortgage with a button, right? Like that's going to raise the bar for everybody. Apple raised the bar for everybody. These things work so damn fast, 2 clicks and we're good. Like there used to be, like, if I would have written this book 5 or 7 years ago, it would have been like the best time to follow up with a new lead is within 24 hours of getting it. Now it's like you got 2 minutes or you're screwed. Like things change. Anyway, hopefully there's some good takeaways there.
Oh, it is. Honestly, so I've been in real estate for a long time, Chris. I'm kind of a real estate brat. My family was in it, and I just jumped into it.
He's old.
Yeah.
He looks young. I get it.
33 years old, but I started working in a real estate office when I was 15, doing marketing, doing CRMs and stuff like that for other agents, just as an assistant. And so I've seen the ups and downs in real estate. I've seen it evolve just since I've been in it. How would you describe the agent of 2019? What characteristics, what they're using? How would you describe the agent of 2019?
The first word that comes to mind when you asked that, I didn't know what you guys were going to ask, but the first word that came to mind is they're very independent. They are less reliant on their brokerage than ever. And that can be scary if you're a broker, right? Like when we started Curaytor, we never once sat down and said, if we build a great marketing and sales platform, and if we build a great community, and if we do great coaching, our clients won't need their broker. We never thought, that was never our goal or our intention. But guess what a lot of our clients are doing? They're starting their own company. Because once they have the coaching and training and community, it's kind of like, yo, broker, what are you doing here? So that has been a challenge for brokers. I think the other thing that comes to mind is like, they're more fit. Like well, teams are obviously a big part of it. They're not alone. In the past, and I'm sure you saw this throughout your years, like you should just be like, your mom just went out there with her notepad and just was a realtor. And we've seen that change to where teams are really dominating. People have marketing help from people like us, and they have admin help, and they have a listing coordinator, and they have a buyer's agent. They might even have a showing specialist. Like, you know what I'm saying? So the idea of going at it alone, I think, is becoming a little bit of a dying breed. But you've got to be independent. You cannot rely on your broker for the technology. Like, I'll give you a good example. Who are you guys with? Which brokerage are you with?
Providence Realty.
And is that an independent brokerage? Is that you? Okay.
It is.
Yep.
So have you guys been seeing what's been happening with like some people leaving Keller Williams for EXP?
Yep.
Okay. So let's unwrap that for 1 second.
Yeah.
Because 10 years ago, the conversation was, why is everybody leaving RE/MAX for Keller? Okay.
Yeah.
And guess what the answer was? Technology and coaching. Well, technology and coaching is not why they're leaving Keller for EXP. they're leaving Keller for EXP for math.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So it's like,
exactly.
you might think people are loyal to your technology and your coaching. And even if you do double and triple down on that, then you're still going to lose people that just look at the numbers.
Yep. Right.
They just look at like, we're doing 3 million in GCI and I like Gary Keller and I like that product they built, but I don't like it that much compared to if I go independent, which is what you guys are. Or let's say I go to a brokerage with like a more competitive split or a more competitive profit share or revenue share, if you will. So I think that would be the other change is like agents are starting to figure this stuff out. Like there's a lot of good coaches, you guys, Tom Ferry, Brian Buffini, Mike Ferry, Jared James. I can name a bunch of great coaches. There's a bunch of great platforms. Go get Boomtown, go get Commissions Inc., go sign up for Curaytor. Like the technology and the coaching has become commoditized a little bit. So that would be the big change I've seen is that used to be the value prop of the brokerage. And I don't think that is the best value prop moving forward.
Yeah,
I agree.
Well, and it's funny. Once again, we literally, we've talked about that. Me and Ron's been big advocates of that as far as that look, marketing and using systems like Curaytor and letting you guys you don't need, an agent started today. They may not need, like you said, that big firm or that big name behind them like they did 5 or 10 years ago.
Training has switched from you going in and sitting in the classroom, watching the TV for however long, and have a couple top selling agents in the office get up and talk to you. And like you said, the technology, I mean, it's something that we all can get for ourselves and probably get it better than what we're going to get it from these franchises. And then training. I mean, the water cooler, for example, Jared James says Jared James Today's show. There's a million online, or you can sign up for personal coaching and honestly get better training because it's more leading edge. It's
well, keep in mind, that's all these people do. So if all I do is coach, I'm going to be better at it than your broker if that's one of the hats he wears. Exactly. And by the way, we're like niche. We're like marketing coaches. So we're like, okay, if all we do is coach on marketing, we're going to be better at that than any broker ever could be because they have to do so many other things. Now, let's be honest. The best brokers, they do provide great coaching locally. They do provide great infrastructure and support. But I'm finding a lot of the people moving to EXP or switching companies, they just want to make sure they don't get sued. That's like their main thing is like, as long as I don't get sued and as long as I don't have to spend the money to start a brokerage, because that can be, I'm sure as you guys learned, expensive and timely to actually start your own brokerage. But yeah, man, I think that there's so many other things for the brokers to do that it really becomes tough to make coaching or technology, your one thing, if you will. And you're right, Jared, Curaytor, Tom, Boomtown. That's what I wrote. People love this new book. Just so you guys know, people love the conversion code. The book they all really need to read is People Work. People Work is my first book, and it's about that there was an industrial revolution, and the industrial revolution led to the digital revolution, right? So you picture like a printing press putting out newspapers versus a blog putting out articles. Like, so you think of the printing press as this big, heavy machine, and you think of like a blog as this lightweight source code. Well, what happens once technology is ubiquitous? Because that's what's happening now is like having a Facebook page or having a YouTube channel or having a mobile app or having a CRM or having video marketing, like that was and still is a differentiator right now. But it won't be for much longer. What happens when every single company has a good blog? What happens when it's going to come back to people? Correct. So the key to winning in a digital era is actually to continue to focus on people. But the difference I've seen is that the internet's full of people. So you can't look at it like, oh, people are my past clients in Sphere and the internet is fake. No, there's people in both places. The way you work with them is different, but you've got to still obsess about people, and you've got to think about how can we use these tools? How can we use these platforms to put people first, to make people smile, to educate people without annoying them? That's what it's all about. People work is the why. And then the conversion code is more like the how-to.
Gotcha. Okay. That's awesome. And I know you and Jimmy recently just did an article or a video about the 19 fastest ways to get a listing, 2019. So it's kind of a lot of it ties in with what we've already kind of discussed about. But you know, can you kind of dig a little bit deeper into that, kind of like some of your top takeaways that you guys discussed, and kind of, you know, maybe give the next agent out there some, you know, some hints, little tips on that.
Yeah, I would say the first thing that comes to mind is, where do your listings already come from? That's one of the things that I don't understand is when you want more of something, you should go to where you get it from now first, right? So as an example, if most of your listings come from referrals, or if most of your listings come from your past clients in your sphere, then your goal to get listings shouldn't necessarily be a Facebook ad targeting strangers. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because you have never even proven that you're good at that. So if you've proven past clients in sphere is where it's at, go do that better. What I call it is angles and outlets, right? What is the angle? Because you need a reason to call. RTC. That would be, you mentioned what's updated. There'll be a whole new chapter called RTC, reasons to call. So you need a reason to call. You also need an outlet, which is phone, text, messenger. And so like one of the ones we came up with that's really simple is like, whenever there's positive data, it's really helpful to lean on like a third-party source, because realtors are always saying the market's great, you know, but when you can find a source like, let's say Zillow, which people seem to trust, or let's say the Wall Street Journal or something puts out some data. In 2018, the average home in America gained 6.2% in value. The actual housing market went up by 1.9 trillion. And the total market in America right now is at an all-time high, 33.3 trillion. That's the value of all the homes. So that's the angle. And then what we recommend is call every past client you know, say, hey, I don't know if you're looking to sell your home or not this year, but I owe it to you to let you know that here in North Carolina where we're at, the averages were this. And if you're selling your home soon, I can put together a report that lets you know. But if not, you know, we're definitely in a healthy market. So it's about an angle. Now, here's a different one, Super Bowl. So you got the Super Bowl coming up, and you got a lot of people that are probably going to do parties, you know? And so what is something people, well, when they have a party, they want to know how to decorate, how to clean up, what food should I serve, right? So we have an article we're working on right now is like, you know, how to make your Super Bowl party a success, plus 3 recipes that you probably didn't think of. So like, that is an angle for the blog, but like now all of a sudden it's like, okay, we've got a good piece of content about hosting a party and recipes. You know, realtors love recipes. I mean, they do them all the time, but that's kind of making what's old new again. And so in theory, you could pick up the phone and just call every client, hey, just calling all my past clients to figure out which ones are having Super Bowl parties this year, because I've got some great tips on how to get your house ready, plus some recipes. Oh, you're not having a party this year? No problem. Have a great day. I'll talk to you again soon. Oh, you are having a party? Check your inbox. Check your Facebook message. I just sent you a link to an article that you're going to really appreciate. Have a great day.
Awesome.
That's it. So it's kind of like a pop by, but a digital pop by. It's kind of like a postcard, but a digital postcard. But it's coming from the heart, and then just rinse and repeat. What's happening in February? Hey, we put together a list of all the best places to eat for couples with kids on Valentine's Day. Would you like me to send that over? Okay, great, cool. March, hey, there's 5 must-attend events on St. Patrick's Day. Would you mind if I sent those over to you? We put a list together on our blog. So there's a way to take what you're doing through marketing and just turn it into a phone script, turn it into a door knocking script, turn it into a text message campaign. But when you marry those two up, it's beautiful. What's the angle? Okay. What's the outlet for that angle?
Yeah. Well, like you said, and you mentioned earlier, it's people. It's getting back in front of people different way, you know, and kind of, like you said, Facebook and things like that. Most people are okay responding to a Facebook message or something like that more than picking up the phone. So,
well, another one we recommended that everybody watching can try is like, as Instagram has gotten popular and people have really started to do stories, they have a great feature called Instagram polls. So you can literally combine the first idea with this idea and say, did you know the home values across the country went up by 6.2% last year? Are you thinking of selling your home this year? Yes or no? And anybody that says yes, slide in the DM keep the conversation going. Anybody that says no, now you don't have to have as much FOMO that your buddy's going to list and forget you. But it's simple questions. It's fun. It's kind of leveraging a new medium, right? Like imagine doing something like link tracking, because you guys are more advanced because you're Curaytor clients, but imagine doing a quiz that says in the email, are you planning on selling your home this year? Yes, click, no, click. If they say yes, it goes to one article. If they say no, it goes to a different article. And then you use something like our conversion tool to focus on the people that clicked yes. So that's a big part of it, is like subject lines or polls or quizzes. The answers to those questions can create a hot sheet for you. So like if you send an email, and let's say you send an email that said, selling your home soon, ? Wouldn't you guys agree that 100% of the people that opened that is a good lead? Like I wouldn't open that. If I got an email that said selling your home soon and I wouldn't open it. Now the difference is what most realtors want is they want the person to open it and click it and then come back and reply to it and say, yes, here's my info. Go ahead and draw up the agreement.
Yep.
Right.
But the reality is that all you're really trying to do is use the subject line to then figure out who you need to focus on more. It's not one or the other, it's both.
Right. Recently, we actually kind of talked, you're talking about the experts and, Steve Harney over Keeping Current Matters.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of talked about him a little bit at that and kind of looking at like, basically we're asking him, in the shifting market that we're in, a lot of agents, some agents are going to thrive and some agents basically aren't going to survive. So if you're one of those agents and kind of, again, wanting to fall into that first category, not just 2019, but where do you see that in maybe 2020, 2025 or so?
Yeah. When I was with Top Producer back in 2008 and 9, that was a pretty tough housing market. The housing prices were crashing and all the loans were going away. So that was tough. And most people remember that if they were in the industry. Well, what happens is when things get tough, systems and strategy matter more. And so that's why people fail. Because when you don't have systems or strategies and the market's good, it covers up a lot of problems that you actually have with your business. So like, here's a good example. Right now, like what do you guys have for days on market in your market right now, approximately? What's the average time?
2 hours.
Yeah, at least. Probably, I mean, honestly,
27.
What do you think?
Probably, in our market, I'll probably look at about 27 is what we've been seeing.
27 days or so? Okay. So what you're telling me is that almost like as long as you guys price it appropriately, you're going to sell most homes right now in a month or less.
Yeah.
Well, what happens, guys, is when it's that easy, people don't actually remember, I need to grow my database in business too. So what they do is they get lazy. They don't run the coming soon campaign. They don't do the open house. They don't do the just listed. They don't do the just sold because they don't have to. But they don't have to sell that home. The agents that are going to thrive and survive are going to be the ones that don't cut corners. So it's easy to cut corners when the market's good. It's easy to cut corners when the days on market are under a month. It's easy to cut corners when home values go up for 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 straight years like they just did. But I have a great saying for people. If all you ever do is cut corners, all you ever do is run in circles. And that's what happens. When I would meet people in 2008, 2009, they would come up to me and hug me. They would have tears in their eyes. And they would say, Chris, the fact that I had Top Producer, the fact that I had all my contacts in there, and that I did all the action plans, and I made my calls, and I sent my notes, and I did what it said, I know that I would have had to give up the career I love during this challenging time had it not been for that system. That was 10 years ago. So the same thing's going to happen again. The people that are not putting every lead in and not completing the tasks and not following up 5 times and not, right, they're going to be gone. And then they're going to come back when it does good again. But Steve Harney's a great example of someone who is constantly giving all of us a good reason to call, right? He does a great job of finding real estate data and trends that are compelling for a consumer, but most people, they'll get his thing and they'll just put it on their Facebook one time. You know what I'm saying? They won't do the complete steps, which is create, advertise, blast, and sell, CABS. So that's probably my advice would be, you're saying, what are we going to do when the shit hits the fan? And the answer is really, what are you going to do before it hits the fan? And then what are you going to do while it hits the fan? Sometimes by the time the market corrects or moves, it might be too late for a lot of people. If they didn't build good habits leading up to that, if they didn't have good processes leading up to that, it's kind of hard. I mean, I don't know if you guys were at our conference last year, but we had a guy there named Eric Thomas. He's one of the best motivational speakers in the world. People can go to his website, etinspires.com. He's a Curaytor client. And he said something that really resonated with the crowd. He said, everybody's willing to try to get out of the wheelchair once they're in it. Like, once you're in the wheelchair, you'll do the rehab. Once you're in the wheelchair, you'll do the physical therapy. Once you're in the wheelchair, you'll do anything you can to get out of it. But we don't take that mindset to stay out of it, to keep from needing it in the first place. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a market. I mean, we need to be proactive as opposed to reactive, because in our market, once you have to hit to that reactive portion, it's sometimes it's too late. I mean, there's way too much competition out here to do that.
Market is changing. The messaging gets to change, and it's kind of nice to try something new. It's kind of nice to, like, we beat the drum about leads and marketing and growth, but like, we put out a tool called Convert. And we put like 6 weeks into promoting that. And it was so fun to like promote something different and to try a different angle. So like, home values going up, that's good for a seller. Home values going up, that's scary for a buyer.
Yeah.
So it's the same data, it's the same chart, but that chart can be spun really positively for an owner. And that can be a really scary chart if you're buying. Yeah. So I think that, you know, I heard this years ago. The only thing you want to make sure the market's doing is moving, whether it's going up or down or left or right. As long as it's changing, it will create new opportunities. Think about, I mean, did you guys get into the REO market and some of the foreclosure stuff back in the day?
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people saw what was happening with that and they stayed away. I don't do that. I do residential resale. Well, it's like, listen, buddy, if you don't do that, there's like a 2 or 3 year period where you didn't do nothing, because that was everything. So it's part of it is noticing the trends and seeing the changes, and then it's hopping on them, taking advantage of them. If remember the first time buyer credit, you guys remember that?
Yep.
That was a big freaking deal. Some people took full advantage of it. Some people tweeted about it once.
Yeah.
You're right. Consistency. You have to stay consistent in what you're doing. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of just mentioned on too, is kind of just some of the, basically from what it sounds like is there's a lot of material out there that you can utilize, but a lot of the agents are always not willing to put in the work. And to do that, because I guess they got the old school way of thinking, well, I'm a real estate agent. I, put a sign in the yard, open doors and walk clients around the house. But I never really had to go out and market and brand myself and things like that, because my firm used to do that for me. But now, I mean, we talk a lot about branding, and this kind of all ties in. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that an agent needs to know and keep up with.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think systems like we talked about, like Curaytor, and you even said like having a daily system, knowing how to convert, how to follow up with these people on a daily basis is going to kind of keep you in business over the next couple of years.
Yeah, you can't wake up and figure out what to do each day. You
Yeah.
can't wake up and figure out what to do each week. You got to clearly define it and then do it. And it isn't that those things might not change, but the worst time to figure out what to do is when you're trying to figure out what to do.
Right.
Religiously making your calls, religiously knocking on doors, religiously doing client events. Like the procedures and processes are more important when it gets tougher. Yeah. There's a Lego documentary. This is a total sidebar, but like Legos is like an anomaly. I mean, think about that brand.
Yeah.
They got movies now. They got a franchise agreement with every possible movie that comes out. Yeah. But there was like this 20-year period where all Lego did was grew dramatically. And what happened is the CEO ends up inheriting the company after 20 straight quarters of positive growth. And he looks under the hood and he's like, how is this even possible? Like, the company was a nightmare. The infrastructure, the employee morale, the margins, the profit, like on the surface, if you just looked at like sales of Legos, they were killing it. And that's easy to do when everything's up. Well, eventually Lego flatlined, right? Yeah. And then it's kind of like, okay, now the evil realities start to rear their head. Yep. So it's one of those things, man, where if your business has been up and to the right for several straight years, that has probably masked a lot of problems that you're hiding.
Well, and basically that kind of leads into the next question I had was, I guess it could be kind of what Lego was, but how big of a impact you think team culture and company culture is kind of come into play now? Because Curaytor, man, it seems like you guys have an awesome culture. You have that. You hear Curaytor, you kind of have a certain image as far as what you think of. So how do you? What do you see?
I agree with that. Like culture-wise, like even I was at NAR in Boston, and so just like by luck of just getting lost, I walked by y'all's storefront, and it was just like even looking through, through your window. I mean, it's just like it looks like a cool place to work. It looks like a cool place to be involved in. Yeah. And me and Brian were talking about it. It's just y'all have a really awesome culture. But anyway, go on.
Well, that didn't start on day one, right? You have a brand and you have a culture, and sometimes they are very much related. We actually put out a culture code publicly, which is a great exercise for people to do. If you go to curaytor.com/culture, you can actually see our culture code. We not only came up with it, we put it out there. I could probably find it's on our books, it's on our notepads here. Hold on. You got to create it, and then you got to reinforce it. You got to put it on stuff and write on the walls with it. And so it starts with us. Be the expert. Conversations matter. Stay positive. Go the extra mile. What that culture is, you guys, is that's us scaling down, right? Yeah. This is what has always made Chris and Jimmy popular. And it's us basically defining those characteristics so that people can be that way when we're not in the room. So if you guys hop on a call with our customer service team, or if you guys have an interaction at our conference with one of our staff, at a minimum, they know this. Yep. And that's why the people are positive. These are hireable and fireable offenses. We really enforce the culture code. When we hire somebody, we think about this. Yeah. When we let somebody go, we think about this. Yeah. So that's a part of it, is coming up with it, developing it. Like there's some great companies, like HubSpot has a great slide deck about their culture code. It's amazing. There's a great book called Delivering Happiness, which is Zappos. Zappos is $1 billion company. And, technically they sell shoes, but they wouldn't tell you that. They would say that we are a customer service organization that's product happens to be shoes right now. So that's just like a different way to define it. Yep. But it's not something that happens overnight. I think where a lot of people probably screw up is they start a company or they start a team and they say, here's our culture. And I don't know that that's real. I think what you have to do is live and breathe the culture. You have to embody the culture. And then after a year or two, you can probably take a step back and go, you know what? This is something we could write down. Like what we're doing, we could actually teach. So I think it's a big part of it. Like I would say that the bigger you get, the more important it becomes, because the bigger you get, the less conversations you have with your customers. Yeah. The bigger you get, the bigger challenges arise. The bigger you get, the more people you got to try to train on how to represent you when you're not around. One of my favorite quotes is from Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon. He said, your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. Yep. And that's what you guys just did. Man, your company looks fun. It looks cool. It looks like it's fun to be a part of. Like there's energy. Like you define our brand, not us. So what we do is we embody and live the culture that then creates what you said, which then gives us positive word of mouth. But people ask us a lot, like, how do you find great employees? It's by just embodying this culture. The people that come to want to work with us, they just say like, I've been following what you guys are doing and I want to work at Curaytor. I want to be a part of that. So it's nice that, your culture can become bigger than you, but you do have to sit down and define it. We spent hours on this. Like, this is the simple part. What you don't see is the like 80-page Google Doc where we developed it and went back and forth about it. And we had a couple little tests that we used, like, does it pass the say it out loud test? Like, is it applicable often? You know what I mean? Like there were definitely some things that we looked at, but like if you're talking to an employee and they say, hey, Chris, I've got this client and she's asking me if we should do this and she's not sure, she thinks that we should do this and not this. Well, then be the expert. You're the expert, not her. So you need to make that decision. We have one that says conversations matter. You know we live in a world where people want to type as often as they want to talk, but we also know that talking still matters. Yep. So yeah, I think it's tricky. It's sort of like you could probably poll your staff and your employees and they would be better at creating your culture code than you.
Yeah.
But I do think it's something that as you get bigger and more mature, you've been doing it a long time, I do think it's insanely helpful. And then, like I said, make it public, put it on the walls, reinforce it in the meetings. Like whenever like Caitlin, one of our marketers, she was getting really good feedback the other day. You can see we have a great work-life balance here at Curaytor. The owner's the only one left at 440. But like, there we go. Sorry, the other salesperson is here. Salespeople.
He's like, you forgot about me.
By nature, we like to hustle. But I was, there were several positive comments about one of our employees the other day on Facebook. And when I, screenshotted those and I brought them into the Slack channel, I said, hey, Caitlin, way to embody our culture code. It's clear that you go the extra mile for your clients. So it's sort of like working it into your language and your vernacular. But anyway, that's a lot about culture. It's good stuff. It's just not where you start, but it gets critical as you grow.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. I honestly, I feel like that we could put that back to the conversation we're having on brands and boutique firms and independents is, there's something that you have with a non-franchise firm, an independent agency, a smaller group of people that that about culture. It's just like that. I think that is something you could build there. It's hard to build in a large franchise.
Yeah,
it is. And the other thing is you can be a hypocrite. So if I didn't go the extra mile, and if I was negative, and if I never talked to anybody, and if I didn't know my shit, like, you know what I mean? Like, that's why number one on the culture code is it starts with us.
Yeah.
I forget the saying, but it's like whenever you're pointing one finger, there's three pointing back at you.
Yeah.
Like, it's so easy to blame your customers or blame the market or blame, external circumstances. But we just always look through the lens like, if this happened, it's our fault.
Yeah.
How can we get better? How can we take accountability? Back to Eric Thomas, he's got a great video where he's like, when's the last time you looked in the mirror and said, I'm not working hard enough. I'm not being a good dad. I'm not being a good father. I'm not being appreciative enough. We never do that. It's so hard to do that. But that's where all the growth comes from, self-awareness.
Chris, be honest, man, it's been an awesome interview, and we're out of beer. And so we're going to call it a day.
That's
we
smart.
are honored to be on the show. We love Curaytor. We love what you and Jimmy have done. Y'all have an incredible company. And I feel like any agent looking to to take it to the next level in 2019, that's the direction that I would go it would Curaytor and just anything that y'all do. So we really appreciate you being on the show.
No problem.
And I got one important question.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your favorite pair of Jordans of all time?
Yeah, that's an easy one, actually. So I have a lot of Jordans. I can actually grab more. Like, there's just like more waiting, so I can like change the set real quick. But my favorite pair of Jordans of all time, this is so simple for me to answer. It's the all red Jordan 1 suede. So there's an all red suede Jordan 1. And I have, I think, 4 pairs of them. Like 3 are like brand new waiting for some future date when I'll need them. But yeah, that's, it's funny, man. These are Jordan 1s.
Yeah.
They're just not all red.
Yeah.
One of the things people don't know is I actually don't like shoes that have white on them. But a lot of people send me Jordans as gifts, as a nice thank you. So whenever they send the ones with white, I just put them on display. And when they send the all red ones, I wear them. But yeah, man, Jordan was my role model growing up. I went to a high school that was white and red and black were the colors. My family was from Chicago. So I've been to Chicago Stadium and I've seen Jordan play in person when I was a kid. So you know, I started wearing them on stage, and it was a little scary to do that the first time. But all of a sudden I would like check Twitter and check Instagram after my speech, and there would be all these pictures of my shoes. And nobody did that when I wore dress shoes. So I'm like, screw it. I'm going to lean into that. But yeah, the Jordan 1 all red suede is my favorite pair.
All right, perfect.
Awesome, man.
Well, again, man, we appreciate it so much. As Ryan said, we're very happy and pleased to kind of have you on the show. If anybody wants to kind of course, check out, we'll put some information as far as Curaytor below. If they want to kind of check out, you know, how to kind of join you guys and kind of sign up for that.
Cool. Well, cheers. Thank you guys for having me on. Have a great one.
All right, thanks, Chris. Appreciate it, buddy.
No problem.
All right.